Next Gen presents to you the new honorary member.
Let's go!
Oh my god.
Today we're playing a meetup game 2-3 at the Hustler. Hit that intro.
Cheers.
With the guy Brantzen, who has the Brantzen poker logs.
Let's go! Let's go!
Tell him he's got a lot of class, and it's all low.
Before we get started, I want to tell you guys about my own meetup game I'm having at the Hustler on November 19th. It's my first ever meetup game. We're playing 2-3 with a buy-in of $100 to $500. I really would love it if you guys came. It's going to be a super fun time. So mark your calendars, November 19th, 1 to 7 p.m., and I'll see you there. Jumping into this next-gen Nick Austin meetup game, I buy in for $500, and the first hand I play is Ace-4 of Spades Under the Gun. I raise to $15, and the cutoff and big blind call. 3 ways to a flop of Ace-3-8 with 2 spades, and the big blind decides to lead out for $25. Even though this is a monster flop for me with top pair and the nut flush draw, I just make the call. If I raise, I think I'll fold out a lot of worse hands than mine, and a lot of hands better than mine will make the call anyway. The cutoff folds, and we're off to a turn which comes a 9. The big blind continues for $35, and for similar reasons as before, I make the call again. The river is a 7. The big blind bets again, $50. I might be getting juiced by a better ace, but it's such a great price. I make the call, and thankfully, the big blind shows pocket 10s, and I take down the pot. Next, I pick up Ace-Queen of Spades in the Lojack, the Under the Gun +1 limps, and I raise to $20. The cutoff, button, and Under the Gun +1 player call were 4 ways to a flop of King 5-8 with 2 spades. The Under the Gun +1 checks. I decide to check with the nut flush draw. It checks to the button, who bets $45. The +1 player folds, actions on me. It's a tale as old as Tolkien. Time to go from looking weak and checking to an enraged Bilbo Baggins. I raise to $150. The cutoff folds, but the button is unfazed. He re-raises to $300. I'm already invested. There's no way I'm folding the nut flush draw. My opponent has $420 total, so I go all in. My opponent calls. In all-in pots, I always ask if they want to run it twice, so that's what we do, and the first run out comes a 10, then the King of Spades, we hit the flush, second run out comes an 8, then the 4 of Spades, we hit the flush again. As long as he doesn't have boats, we're good. Our opponent shows 10 Jack of Spades, so he was on a weaker flush draw, and I scoop the whole pot. Moving on, I get 4-5 of spades in the big blind. The cutoff opens to $15. The small blind calls. I'm closing the action with a playable hand, so I call, and the flop comes 4-6-7 with 2 hearts and a spade. The small blind leads out for $15. I decide to raise it up to $45. This flop should connect well with my range as the big blind, and my particular hand should be in decent shape against any hands my opponents might have. The cutoff folds, but the small blind goes all in for $112 total. It's a pretty easy call with a pair and an open-ender. The runout comes Queen 9. The small blind flips over Queen 6. So unfortunately, I can't win this one. An orbit later, I'm in the big blind again, this time with King 9 of clubs. The button opens to $10, and then the small blind 3-bets to $20. It's the Costco gas of 3-bets, super affordable, but he might be trying to lure me in with a premium. I make the call anyways, and the button calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of 4-7-6 with 2 clubs. The small blind continues betting for $35. The suspiciously small 3-bet, followed by a bet into 3 people. My gut is telling me he has a medium to big pocket pair here. I have a flush draw, so I make the call, and we're heads up to a queen on the turn. Now the small blind checks. I think checking back is fine, but this time I take the aggressive route and bet $75. The small blind calls, and the river is a 5, so now any 3 or 8 make a straight. The small blind checks. I really doubt he's checking with a straight. After check calling the turn, my gut's now telling me he has a pocket pair between 9s and jacks. I have king high, time for max pressure. I go all in for his remaining $160. He goes into the tank for a full minute and a half. I'm thinking, please fold, dude, please fold. And he folds. I get the bluff through and take it down. Next, I pick up ace queen off on the button. Nick Austin opens to $15 from the Lojack. The cutoff calls. Nick's inviting me to this party, but screw that. If you want to play, you got to come to my party. I 3-bet to $60. Only Nick makes the call. We're heads up to a flop of 8-8-4 rainbow. Nick checks. I put out a small c-bet of $45, and Nick makes the call. The turn is another 8. He checks. I have showdown value with my ace. I think a lot of people feel too pressured to keep betting in spots like this, but honestly, ace high might be good, and I don't want to play an overly bloated pot. I check back. The river is a deuce. He checks. I check. He shows ace jack, and I win the pot with a stronger ace high. Moving on, I pick up 4-7 of spades in the big blind. There's a straddle to $6. The cutoff opens to $20. I have a somewhat playable hand. Okay, it's a bit of a stretch. I make a questionable call, and the straddle calls as well. 3 ways to a flop of 3-3 deuce rainbow. I check, the straddle checks, the cutoff checks. We go to a turn, which comes another deuce. Okay, I'm in the big blind. I could have a 3. I could have a 2, so I bet $15. The straddle calls, and the cutoff folds. The river is an ace, and now I'm thinking, if I did have a 3, time to get some money. I bet $75, and then the straddle raises to $200. So I feel like an idiot. I make the fold, and sure enough, the straddle shows ace 3 for a monstrous hand. This time I straddle to $6. The under the gun limps, the big blind limps. I pick up pocket 9s. I raise it up to $30. Both the under the gun and big blind call were 3 ways to a flop of 10-4-5 rainbow. I decide to c-bet $45. I think I actually have the best hand a good amount of the time here, but the under the gun calls. It's the same guy who just owned me last hand with ace 3. The turn is an 8. Not a great card because a 10 will still feel very strong on this board, and additionally, it completes the main straight draw of 6-7. I check, hoping he checks back, but he bets $75. I fold, and this time he shows the lucky snowman for a turned set. Man, I just can't win against this guy. At least this time I put money in when I was ahead and folded when I was behind, but still. I can't keep losing to this guy on my left, so I switch seats and pick up pocket 9s again, this time on the button. The under the gun opens to $15. The cutoff 3-bets to $30. Another Costco price is way too good 3-bet. I call, but then the small blind 4-bets to $100. The cutoff calls. It's 70 more for me to win a pot of like $320. Okay, I'll set mine. I make the call. We're 3 ways to a flop of king 9-6, 2 hearts. Holy cow. Dream spot, flopping a set in a 4-bet pot. The small blind checks, but the cutoff bets $110. I've been watching this player for a while, and I'm almost 100% sure he has ace king here. I raise to $310. The small blind folds, and then the cutoff goes into the tank for almost a minute. He's back and forth, but eventually he says,
I'm all in.
Do you want to run it more? Wait.
The run out comes 7-7. Sure enough, he has ace king of diamonds, and I take down a massive pot. The action starts slowing down, so I announce a blind raise of $15 from the button if no one raises before it gets to me. I pick up 5-7 of diamonds. Okay, not a terrible hand. The cutoff limps, and as promised, I put out the blind $15. The small blind wants to punish my blind raise. He raises to $55, and the action folds to me. Well, I didn't put out $15 to fold a decently playable hand. At least I have position. I call, and we're heads up to a flop of deuce, deuce, 6 with 2 spades. Small blind checks. I'm happy to check back. Maybe hit a pair or pick up a draw on the turn. The turn comes a 4. Nice. I have an open-ended straight draw now. The small blind bets $45, can't go away now, so I make the call. The river is a 5, giving me a pair. He bets $65. I think my pair is good now, so I toss in the chips. He says good call, and I take it down. As I'm scooping in the chips, I pick up the lucky snowmen in the cutoff, and I open to $15. Only the big blind calls were heads up to a flop of 4, 7, 10 with 2 spades. The big blind checks. I think he'll connect with this board a little more often than me, so I check back to see a turn, and the turn comes the 3 of hearts, putting 2 hearts on the board. He bets $30. I think after checking the flop, I should at least call one bet with pocket 8s and evaluate a river. So that's what I do, and the river comes the 4 of hearts, putting 3 hearts on the board. Now the big blind bets $60. I lose to a 10, I lose to hearts. In this particular situation, I am holding the 8 of hearts, which helps block some flush combinations, so I decide to try to be a hero and call. This time, the big blind shows King 5 of diamonds for a pretty ballsy bluff, and I'm able to take down one last pot before the meetup game is over. After that, I rack up and cash out.
All right, so today was a pretty fun day. I was in the game for $500 and out for $1,587 for a profit of $1,087. Pretty smooth sailing for the most part. Had a bit of a card dead period and then had that set that was just monster hand, and yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching.
Subscribe!
Subscribe! See you in the next one.